Good afternoon, and welcome to Webinar Wednesday with IHA. Today, our webinar will be Increased Brand Awareness and Online Sales with Targeted Online Advertising Strategies. Our presenters are from EPower Marketing, Justin Toddy, Assistant Vice President, Online Marketing, and Hannah Jean is an online advertising specialist, and she joined the team 2015, and Todd has been with the EPower marketing team since 2004. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Justin and Hannah.
Thanks, Jenny. Appreciate the introduction, and thanks to all those who are attending. I'm going to respect your time here and just dive right into things. As Jenny mentioned, I've been practicing online advertising and marketing for almost 15 years. And one of the most common questions I get from prospects is, I want to increase brand awareness and online sales, but why should I invest? And where should I spend my budget if I decide to invest? 15 years ago, that question would have received a pretty simple response and answer from me. You should invest in online advertising because you'll find success, and that success can be proven with measurable results. So whether your goals were sales, leads, or branding, 15 years ago, the answer as to where you should spend your budget was pretty much always spend your money on Google with pay-per-click advertising or drive sales using e-commerce platforms. Today, things have changed immensely. While you can still absolutely find success with online advertising and see measurable results, that question that was simple to answer 15 years ago is so much more complex today. If you ask me that question today, the end result will most likely be me asking you 20 follow-up questions about your business goals, your objectives, your current marketing plans, your target audience, and their journey to buying the product. In essence, in today's world, your online advertising and online marketing can no longer operate in a silo successfully. It needs to be part of an integrated approach. With that being said, this kind of leads us to our goals for the webinar today. Our goal here is to not only present a strategic approach to gaining name recognition and getting more online sales through advertising, but to also cover some questions that you as a brand should be asking yourself when looking to truly compete in the housewares industry, both offline and online. So before we dive into that nitty-gritty of the webinar, I want to be doing my job if I can give you the quick elevator speech of who EPower Marketing is. So the webinar is about you and your brand, so I promise I'll keep it brief. Since 1998, the team at EPower Marketing has been committed to solving the online marketing needs of our clients. We are a boutique online marketing agency dedicated to powering the housewares industry online. We're here to help brands stand out, connect with consumers, and sell more products through integrated online marketing programs. To us, that means we're delivering programs that drive measurable results while making our clients' jobs easier. Every program we develop is custom. It's based on your goals, your resources, your target audiences, and overall marketing strategy. So in terms of professional experience, the team of EPower Marketing has over 75 years of combined online marketing experience. We've been successful for so long because of our commitment to excellence, best practices, and the long-term partnerships we've developed with our clients. In terms of the Housewares experience, we have been working in the housewares industry in multiple capacities since 2000. This includes working directly with the International Housewares Association. We've managed and staffed the digital marketing and social media booth at the International Home Plus Housewares Show. We're an ongoing sponsor at Chess, and we also support the Inspired Home as a digital marketing partner. All right, now that I've given you the brief plug, let's get back to the webinar goals I mentioned earlier. I'd like to start with covering questions that you as a brand should be asking yourself to compete in the housewares industry. Again, this is both online and offline. So at EPower, we often get asked whether a direct-to-consumer, retailer-focused, or a blend of direct-to-consumer and retailer is the best solution for generating sales from online marketing and advertising. We get that question quite a bit, and the answer a lot of you probably been waiting for, it really depends. It depends on so many factors. There's so many factors involved that we don't have time to talk about all of them today. While there is some overlap between them, all the models have certain challenges and requirements. For today's webinar specifically, we're going to focus on more of a blended approach to selling direct to consumers and through retailers, so both online and offline. So why is a blended strategy beneficial to you and your retailers? Blended strategy can drive sales both offline and online, as I mentioned before. But when executed properly, you can see sales through your e-commerce platform, and retailers can also see a lift in sales of your products. Building brand awareness and creating campaigns that not only drive online sales, but offline is mutually beneficial. It can also help you create a dialogue between yourself and the retailers on what your online and offline campaigns are both working towards. This blended strategy can create online sales as well as drive people in store to purchase. Retailers can just provide you with that awareness you can't get anywhere else. So selling at retail locations offers the opportunity for consumers to physically see, touch, and try your products. So don't really be afraid to showcase your retailers. If you only focus your efforts online, you're gonna be missing out on a large piece of sales. Don't be afraid to let visitors to your website know where they can buy your products locally. The local movement is strong and not everyone needs things right this second. Showcasing retailers online and allowing visitors to your website the option to buy your product at an online retailer is also okay. For those that want to buy now and buy quick, make it as easy as possible for them to do so. And I can't say this enough, track your results. You can track the amount of people you send to an online retailer's website, and you can track visitors who choose to check out your products locally. So if you take the time to track this data, make sure you use it wisely. The data is valuable for not only for internal tracking, but external as well. Internally, tracking online gives you one more metric as to what retailers your audience prefers. Make these retailers more prominent on your website. Make it easier for your audience to buy from them. If you find that customers prefer to buy from you rather than a retailer, then is one sign that an integrated marketing and advertising approach is working and that you have built brand trust. If this is the case, make your retailers a little less prominent on your website. As far as tracking externally, you can do this as well. You're tracking both online and offline local metrics allows you to strike up dialogue with your retailers. Let me run you through kind of a quick example of how that might work. Let's pretend you are gearing up to run an online promotion this year. Let's say you ran a similar promotion last year. Looking at this tracking data from last year, you're able to figure out that your promotion increased eyeballs to one particular retailer. Use these results to open a dialogue with that actual retailer. The conversation goes something like this. Our last fall promotion drove a 40% increase in inquiries to your stores. This year we are running a similar promotion, but with additional products. Since we increased eyeballs to your store locations during this period last year, you might want to consider carrying extra stock or looking at the additional products we are featuring during this promotion. Did I mention we are also investing 20% more advertising towards this year's promotion? A blended strategy also focuses on brands. It forces a brand to rethink what is important to them. The days are long gone where a brand could solely focus on designing a new logo. Brands now have to focus directly on consumers, which is actually great. Consumers are the ones who have all the power anyways. So instead of focusing efforts on these logos, brands can now engage and talk to their consumers through social media and other channels. Questions are easily answered and reviews are easily shared. All of this is beneficial to both brands and retailers. By providing the customer with the information they're looking at prior to getting to the store, you won't need to rely on that store associate or sales associate to provide the actual correct information. This is also beneficial for stores as they know as a brand, you're educating your customers before they even enter that retail space. And of course, margins. A blended strategy can drive more direct sales. That creates the better margins that you guys are all looking for, and also provides you with that lucrative customer data that you don't always get from retailers. So I've touched on kind of why blended strategy is important, but also want to touch on what it takes to compete. Today, the cornerstone for a blended strategy for your brand and retailers still starts online. You hold the keys to success, but before you see that success, there's a lot of work that needs to happen. Understanding your audience online. I can't emphasize this enough. Just understand your audience online. You need to fully understand them. It's not enough to just know that your audience is millennial females. You really need to dig deeper. Some questions to ask yourself when you're digging deeper to understand your audience. Have you broken your target audience down further and created buyer personas for each? While millennials may have similar characteristics, they're not all the same. Creating buyer personas allows you to segment your audience further by looking at behavioral patterns and motivations. If you're not sure where to start, design some questions to reach out to your existing audience. What's your target audience's buyer's journey look like? Is it short or long? So how many touch points does it take before you get a purchase? These touch points are coined as micro moments. Micro moments are defined as I want to know, I want to go, I want to do, and I want to buy moments. And they happen billions of times per day. Where does your audience typically purchase? Do they prefer to buy online, in store, or is it a combination of both? Is where they buy evolving? Is your audience an I need it now or I can wait audience? Does your product and strategy reflect this? You need to understand your audience so you can design and put together a strategy to reach your potential customers as the journey through these touch points and through the buyer's journey. So understanding your audience is critical to your success, not only online but for via traditional brick and mortar stores as well. Your website is also critical. When you get a potential customer to your website, the work's not over. Don't waste all your time planning and executing a great marketing or advertising strategy, only to find out your website is not up to today's standards. Does your website offer a great user experience? Does it provide the information your customers are looking for? Remember those micro moments we talked about earlier? Does your website address these along the buyer's journey? Is your site visual? Consumers today just flat out expect more. Not only do you need the information they want, but you have to present it in a visual manner. Whether it's a photo or video, investing in making your website visual is something that needs to be addressed. One stock product photo is not going to cut it, nor is that old brochureware website from the early 2000s. Are you engaging your audience? Again, back to the consumer touch points and micro moments. Are you engaging them through the buyer cycle? Are you succinctly answering their questions without forcing your product onto them on every single page? Do you offer the capability for users to review and rate your products? Depending on your audience, that may be a key factor that influences the purchasing decision. Is your website mobile friendly? According to Google, more than half of all website visits are abandoned, literally abandoned if the load time takes longer than 3 seconds. Is your website responsive? Can you accommodate your target audience regardless of what device they're using to navigate your website? Is your website secure? If you have an e-commerce site and it's not secure, don't expect to get any love from Google at all. Whether you're selling or not, your website just needs to be secure, as Google's making a big privacy issue. If it's not secure, Google can block people from buying from you or even literally seeing your website. E-commerce support. With a blended approach, your website will need to have e-commerce support. Is your shopping cart up to snuff? How easy is it to check out? Think about the competition. If you want to sell direct, think about Amazon. You can literally buy direct from Amazon in simple one click. Don't make it difficult for your customers to check out when you get them to that point. And tracking. Are you tracking e-commerce sales correctly? If you don't know where your sales are coming from, you won't know what is working and what is not. First impressions are very important. If your website is slow, not mobile friendly, has a poor user experience and a clunky shopping cart, the odds of you getting a successful sale, let alone a visitor that stays on your website for more than a couple seconds, is slim. The competition is fierce and the back button is easy to hit. Your website matters. Don't waste that first impression. Remember, it costs 5 times as much to attract a new customer as it does to retain an existing one. Metrics that you should be focusing on. There's the tried and true metrics that everyone focuses on all the time. You've probably heard about clicks, click-through rate, bounce rate, time on site, repeat visits, new users, return on ad spend. I could go on and on. There's nothing wrong with those metrics, but there's one metric that almost never gets brought up in this conversation, and the direct-to-consumer and retailer model is one of the most important metrics. That metric is the lifetime value of a customer. What's the lifetime value of your customers? That's something you really need to know and really need to understand. And I encourage you to remember that it's a partnership. Your online marketing and advertising efforts shouldn't operate in a silo, nor should sales data from your offline channels. Try to work together with your online team and retailers to figure out the lifetime value of a customer, not only your online market efforts, but from your retailer efforts as well. Remember, the journey may start online, but that doesn't mean it ends online. I also encourage you to think long-term. While calculating lifetime value can be difficult, that's why a lot of brands and manufacturers shy away from it. Knowing this lifetime value of your customers helps set future marketing budgets and allows you to reach the customers that matter to you the most. Another factor to consider when taking a blended approach online is product price. So at a traditional brick and mortar store, when it comes to price, odds are that there will be someone else directly competing with you in your given space and probably sitting on the shelf right next to you. Now, depending on your audience, price may be a driving factor when it comes to marketing or making or not making a sale. If you're going to get a customer to choose your product over the lower price competition, what does your product need to convey to the consumer? What does your strategy entail? When it comes to pricing e-commerce sales, the situation is eerily similar. Whether your product is on a retailer's website, Google, or even Amazon, your product is going to be surrounded, and literally surrounded by the competition. How do you stand out online and get the consumer to choose your product? Well, when done correctly, an integrated strategy reaching consumers during their buying journey can be highly effective. And my colleague Hannah is going to give you a nice example of this very shortly. So while there are similarities between brick and mortar and e-commerce, there are also some differences. If you're going to sell online, remember that retailers are selling your product as well. In the likes of search engines like Google and e-commerce giants like Amazon, when it comes to advertising, price determines almost everything. It can determine where you show up in results and how much you pay to show your ads. And the end result, it determines how effective your program is going to be. Your ads are not only going up against competitors, but they'll be shown right next to the retailer's ad of your product. And this is where a blended strategy can become effective. Should your advertising budget be solely spent on going head-to-head with retailers, or should you embrace a blended strategy that focuses on total sales? Could that blended strategy focus on creating the next product launch or the next product success online so that retailers pick it up and carry it at a later time? And again, don't forget about that lifetime customer value. So we've covered just a couple of the issues that are required to capitalize a blended strategy, but let's talk about marketing and advertising here. Another question that we get asked frequently is, what does the marketing and advertising mix look like? Should I be on Google? What about Snapchat? What about Twitter? I mean, there's 20, 30 channels you could consider when you're going through your marketing and advertising strategy. But I know I've said it before, there's really no standard cookie cutter formula. We always encourage our clients and prospects to share as much as possible with us about their goals and objectives, and especially the target audience. Having a proper understanding of those helps us to recommend a more effective marketing and advertising mix. Let me give you an example of why just understanding one of those three, your audience, is so important. So in an earlier slide, I mentioned that just because the customer journey starts online doesn't mean that it ends online. So case in point, let's look at Generation Z. So according to recent Nielsen data, Generation Z is now the largest population segment, just topping millennials. Why does this matter? Well, according to another study, Generation Z is more inclined to shop in stores than millennials. More than 98% of Generation Z shoppers also still prefer to make a purchase in a brick and mortar store. So assuming that your target audience was Generation Z, EPower would emphasize a marketing and advertising approach that relies more heavily on branding, as well as hitting them throughout the awareness and consideration stages of the buying cycle. If the bulk of the sales happen in store for this audience, then it doesn't make sense at this point in time to invest heavily in a marketing or advertising program that revolves solely around e-commerce. Instead, efforts should be spent influencing and educating Generation Z before they actually make it to the store. Now, let's talk when the inevitable happens. Not a direct website sale. So just because the sale didn't happen on your website doesn't mean that the online journey or experience is over. Remember the lifetime value conversation we just had? Your next objective, if a sale happens via retailer, is to turn your customers into loyal, long-term repeat business, and even brand ambassadors. Just because the initial purchase came via a retailer doesn't mean you don't have future opportunities to get these customers to convert on your website. One way to do this is to try and acquire your customers' information via email. Some examples of getting this customer info include warranty cards, coupons, loyalty programs, creating exclusivity, online-only colors, special online-only releases, product customization. Depending on your audience, you're not always going to get a customer to fill out an email address. So it just might not be in the equation, but that doesn't mean you can't use any of the above options without email. You can still drive a customer to your website after the purchase. Even if you don't get their email or contact information, you can still send them to a landing page that only customers can get to. Once the customer has visited that page, their information is still yours. You can now remarket them exclusively as a customer. Create your marketing campaign around those customers and make sure you utilize that data. Once you've obtained your customer information, I just encourage you to use it wisely. Internally, does your customer data match up to the personas you developed? If yes, where should you amplify your marketing and advertising mix? If not, where did you go wrong? Remember your audience too. The journey they took and the information they gave you. They didn't give you that information to shell them with sales emails 3 times a week. They gave you that information because as a brand, they saw value in providing to you. Don't make them unsubscribe from email lists 2 weeks after getting their email address. And for remarketing, don't be that creepy uncle that follows people around the web. It's just unflattering for you and your brand. So I've given you a brief overview of a blended approach. I'm going to pass things now over to my colleague, Hannah Jean. She's going to present an example of how a fictional company, Jumpstart Coffee Accessories, takes an integrated approach to building brand awareness and sales. Remember, this is just an example. Your personal integrated marketing strategy may be simpler, it may be complex, and odds are it's probably gonna be different. There's just no cookie cutter approach. Hannah's example is really designed to get you to think about what your individual approach may or could look like.
Thanks, Justin. All right, so we're gonna go through this example of Jumpstart Coffee Accessories. And like Justin said, hopefully it kind of gives you, or it helps you start to think about how you can apply this to your own brand. So your marketing strategy really should be integrated. It's no longer online and offline working separately. They need to work together for you to see results. So in a typical campaign, you'll have different online methods such as social media or online advertising. Then you'll have offline as well, like different trade shows and events that you attend, and other traditional advertising like print or direct mail. And with this example, we're going to go through just one campaign within this brand, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in just a second. When you create your campaign and you create a topic and you start doing all that, there's really a process that you go through each time. And then once that process is over, you just start all over again with your next campaign that you have. So really, you start at the top left and you review your marketing calendar, your budgets for the year or for the quarter, and the goals that you have. And you use that to start to brainstorm and research campaign topics that you might want to focus on. And then you finalize that topic. You create a schedule on when you want your different advertising components to go out, and create a timeline of when things need to get done and when things need to go to printers or to your advertising team or other teams like that. So then you develop your campaign objectives. What do you want to accomplish with this campaign? What goals do you want to reach, and how are you going to do that? You start to create that campaign strategy, or the distribution strategy, excuse me, and you create an outline for doing that. And then this is really important. You want to communicate your plan with all of your different agency partners. So maybe you work with an online marketing agency and then your web developer, and then internally through your departments, you want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, so that when these deadlines do come up and when things start to roll out, that everyone's on the same page and it's rolling out seamlessly. So then after everyone's on the same page, you guys will start to develop website, social media, and advertising content, and different assets that you'll need for that, whether it's video or images, and then just the content itself that you're going to use. So then you follow the schedule that you created before to distribute all of these assets. And after everything's launched, you start to measure how things are performing, and make changes as necessary. And then when that campaign is over, you take a deep dive into that campaign to see how everything performed, what channels worked better for you, what you can do differently next time, and then you start all over. So this is a process that you'll go through each time. And then at the beginning of that process, I mentioned brainstorming and researching campaign topics. There's a lot of different tools online that you can use to do this. Google has Google Trends, Think with Google. There's other competitor research that you can look into. Really, if you have the direction that you want to go based off of your goals or seasonality, you can use things like Google Trends to research iced coffee trends and cold brew coffee trends and how popular that has become over the years, and if there are any trends throughout certain times of the year. You can do a content gap analysis using tools like Moz Pro, Google Analytics, seeing what on your website might indicate that there's a gap in content that you can fill. And then I mentioned this briefly, but if you have anything that's seasonal or upcoming product launches, these are perfect for shaping your campaign schedule throughout the year. So if you have a product launch coming up, creating this campaign, this integrated campaign strategy is going to be perfect for that. It really keeps your whole team on task for getting it implemented. All right, so before I dive into the example, I'll talk a little bit about who we're actually targeting with this campaign. Justin talked a lot about creating a buyer persona and really targeting a specific audience. And with this, with each of these campaigns, you want to be targeting a certain persona. So with the Cold Brew is Better campaign, we're going to be targeting Jara. And Jara is a definitely coffee drinker. She drinks at least 2 to 3, sometimes more cups a day. She starts her day by stopping at the coffee shop and picking up an iced coffee or just like a regular dark roast, something like that. So she really enjoys her coffee. And she works at a Fortune 500 company. She's always on the go and she's super busy. And on the weekends, she enjoys a cup of coffee on her deck, but she doesn't necessarily want to go out to purchase that coffee. She'd rather spend her time at home, have a relaxing morning, and get things done around the house. So Jara's who we're targeting. So keep her in mind as we go through this campaign and how some of these items would appeal to her. So the Cold Brew is Better campaign, the goal of it is to make Jumpstart's cold brew coffee maker the preferred cold brew appliance among coffee drinkers in the US. And then our goal is to increase cold brew maker sales by 40% in 2017. And you want your goal to be specific so that when you get to the end of your campaign, you know if you've met your goal or not. So you can just say increase cold brew sales, but if you put a number on it, you'll know if you actually reached that. So our strategy is going to be to educate consumers on the benefits of drinking cold brew coffee and how that may benefit their life or their pocketbook over time. So some of these items listed below, like lower acidity levels, less waste, they'll save you money. We'll use these items to really talk to Jara throughout this campaign. And we'll do that with all sorts of different marketing efforts. We'll use hashtags on social media. The hashtag Cold Brew is Better will be used. We'll develop website content aiming at educating users like Jara on why drinking cold brew is going to benefit her. We'll use video to demonstrate acidity levels in cold brew versus regular iced coffee, and then show Jara how she'll save money by having her own cold brew coffee maker at her home. So she doesn't have to purchase it every time she wants to drink it. All right, so I mentioned a campaign calendar, and this is kind of just an example of what that might look like for you and how you can use something like Google Trends to help you plan that. So you have a campaign prep time, and then you have the actual campaign dates that you're going to run this, and this could be, for a month, or it could be for the whole year or a certain quarter. It really depends on what those trends are. You can see with this cold brew trend graph, there's a spike, looks like in April or so, and then it starts to taper off near the end of the year. And so really that's how you kind of plan your campaign calendar based off of the popularity of a certain topic or a product that you're looking to promote. And then you have a time where you evaluate the campaign, and then you use that information to launch your next campaign. You might have a couple of campaigns that overlap, depending on your goals and what you're trying to do. You might have more than one campaign running at once. So just keep that in mind, I guess, as you're preparing your year. So earlier I showed you a graphic of the different marketing efforts that we'll use, like social media, traditional advertising. And with this specific campaign, these are the specifics of those. So under social media, we have Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube, and Instagram. And influencers is one that we'll be taking advantage of with this. Offline, we'll be attending Coffee Fest, the International Home and Housewares Show, Coffee Con, and then you can see some of the other items as well. One thing I wanted to point out is the retailer education. One thing that you can do with these campaigns is educate your retailers so that when people are going to, the Container Store or Target and they're looking for your product, the retailers and the associates that work there can help sell your product because they know about it. So many times they don't know anything about the products on the shelves. So if you build that relationship with the retailers, it's almost like training those associates to know how to sell your product and say why your product is the best one and why this cold brew machine is the one that they want to buy. All right, so this is kind of the meat of the campaign. It goes into detail of what we are really looking to do with this. I'm not going to go through every single box because that would take quite a while, but I'll highlight the different stages of the funnel and kind of what we're looking to do in each of those. And the goal for this whole strategy is to pull people through that funnel. You get someone to your website once or to your Facebook page once, they're not going to immediately buy. It's all about getting their attention through each stage of the buyer's journey and pulling them through the funnel to ultimately end in a sale of your product. So with the top of the funnel, it's going to be that top part of the chart. We're really looking to target people who are coffee or iced coffee drinkers, and we're going to do that with blog posts, website content, and social media content and ads. We'll use online ads and offline ads, and we'll have an event that is testing acidity level of cold brew versus just regular iced coffee. And when we're targeting those ads, both online and offline and on social media, we want to target people who are interested in seeing content related to coffee. So they're not actively searching for a cold brew machine. They might not even know that a cold brew machine exists. They just like coffee, and we want them to read our blog posts, and we want them to interact with our social media channels. And the traditional ads would be geared towards the same thing, keeping in mind that you would want to place ads in relevant magazines and TV stations like the Food Network or Bon Appetit. So that's just something to think about with those. In the middle of the funnel, we're targeting people who drink coffee and order cold brew at coffee shops, but they haven't really ever considered making cold brew at home. So really their only way to get it is to hop over to Starbucks or their local coffee shop. So this content that's going out for this, the blog posts, website content, so the real cost of your daily cold brew is one of our blog posts that we'll be putting advertising budget behind. And really this is to help get Jara to realize that she's spending a lot of money at Starbucks getting her cold brew coffee, and how much money, and showing her how much money she can save over time by having her own at home. So on the weekends when she wants a cold brew, she can have it while she's preparing for her upcoming week on a Sunday afternoon, or even when she's leaving for work in the morning, she can make it at home instead of spending $4 on it at Starbucks. So really that's the point of not only that blog post, but just this part of the funnel in general, is to educate Jara and users like her. And that's how we start to pull them down through the funnel. Some ways that we can target people like Jara is, so in the top of the funnel, we brought people to our website. We have people engaging with our social channels, but then we can target ads at those people again. So we can target ads to people who have already visited your website to help pull them down through the funnel and keep your brand top of mind. And then when we get to the bottom of the funnel, this is where the magic happens and where we start to generate sales. The people in the bottom of the funnel are the most engaged with your brand. They're actively searching for cold brew coffee makers because now they know that it exists. They know that it can save them money. maybe it'll look cool in their kitchen, you know, stuff like that. So they're really looking to buy one. They've made a decision that they want to purchase one. So some of the content that we have going out here, how to make a perfect cup of cold brew coffee. Maybe you don't know how to use it yet, so now we need to educate Jara on how to actually use what she wants to purchase. And in this blog post, you would link to that product on your site so that they can either purchase it on your site or find where she can find it near her. As far as targeting our online ads and our social media ads, we're really looking to target users who are actually searching for a cold brew coffee maker, and maybe using retargeting again to target people who have previously interacted with your website, or maybe who have visited who have put like their cold brew machine into their shopping cart but then abandoned it. So you can do a lot with the bottom of the funnel to capture people who are actively looking and who are already familiar with your brand. Some offline things that we can do here, point of purchase marketing in your stores, really to get people to purchase while they're walking through, you know, the Targets and the stores that you carry your products in. You can do product demos in store, having people try cold brew as it's being brewed in the store, different coupons to encourage them to purchase, and then other in-store events as well. So this is just kind of a visual example of what this distribution strategy would look like. You publish a blog post on your page, and then you share it on social, and then you promote it to a relevant audience. So this audience here is who Jara is, and who the other people like her that we want to target. This is who they are. So this is what it looks like. One thing that's really important is, yeah, you'll share these blog posts on your social channels and you'll put them out in email blasts, but you don't want to do that just once. You want to repurpose this content. You want to share it multiple times throughout your campaign. You don't have to put budget by every single post that you share, but you put the budget behind the one post, and then you keep sharing your content throughout over time, so that people see it organically in their feeds, in their social feeds, and in their inboxes if you're using email as well. And not only that, once your campaign is over, coffee isn't going away, and cold brew isn't going away, and people wanting to drink it isn't going away. So this is something that you can use time and time again. If it's successful, you can do it, you know, next year or in a couple of months, and you know, tweak it based off of the data that you see coming through, to make it better and to increase sales further next time. And just to help you think of a way to apply this to your brand with the holidays coming up, think of a way that you can create this strategy for, you know, a product that you have, if it's a new product or a current product, and then you can come up with that whole campaign and then use it again next year if it was successful. So definitely something that you want to keep using over time. So we touched on this a little bit in a couple of slides, but measuring the performance of this campaign is going to be really important. You want to make sure that you have the proper tracking in place, so that you actually can measure if things are working well. So each of the channels has their own tracking codes that you want to get in place. You want to make sure that you get that in there properly, and that communication with your web developer that I mentioned is really important here, because then if you don't have this data, you can't make any decisions on how it's working. So you want to share your successes and struggles with everyone that's involved. So that means internally with your team, your other agencies that you're working with, because when you share both your successes and your struggles, you can work together to make changes to make the next campaign or the next time you do this campaign even better. And then you want to continue to optimize. As I said before, even once the campaign has started, you want to start looking at the data that's coming in, and make changes as necessary. So you may have started with Facebook, email, Pinterest, and CoffeeCon, but one of them's not working. You can remove the one that's not working, or maybe they're all working really well and you see an opportunity to add effort somewhere else. You can do that. Maybe you aren't doing YouTube, but you see an opportunity to add video advertising into there. That's a decision you can make by staying on top of the data that you have coming through. And then at the end, you put together a report that has a data-driven analysis in it of how this campaign performed and the different updates that were made throughout and what you can do next time. And this is going to make relaying information to your bosses easy and to other people in the team so that you can prepare for the next one. I'll pass it back over to Justin. He can wrap it up, and then we'll take some questions.
Thanks, Hannah. I just want to leave you with, we want to leave you with a couple key takeaways here. You can find success and carve out your niche and sell direct to consumers. I just want you to realize that the path to success is more complex than just adding an e-commerce platform to your website. Also, Hannah and I both touched on it. You really need to understand your target audience and their shopping habits, where they purchase, how you reach or influence them before the purchase, and throughout the rest of their journey to getting better acquainted with your brand and products. Definitely go deeper in your target audience and finding them as millennial females. Go back and look through Hannah's example that she gave you from Jumpstart. In conclusion, the biggest takeaway that we would like to leave you with is that while you can see success generating brand awareness and online sales with targeted online strategies, they also can't operate independently as silos. You won't see the success you're looking for if your line of thinking is that you can do some pay-per-click advertising, set up some e-commerce shopping ads on Google or Facebook, or solely just advertise on Amazon. You just won't find that success. You need to take an omni-channel approach to your marketing efforts to come up with an integrated strategy. This includes mirroring your online and offline strategies, as well as working alongside retailers towards your common goals. So that wraps up the webinar for today. So I guess as we stated earlier, I'd like to open this up to any questions that you guys may have.
Okay, we have one question is, why should a Housewares brand advertise on Google instead of putting all its money into advertising on Amazon?
That's a great question. We get that one quite frequently, and it just kind of goes off of what we just said in our key takeaways there. Whether the consumer starts their search on Google or Amazon, you're operating in a highly competitive landscape. Don't just think about being in front of those consumers as they search on Google or Amazon. Think about engaging them where necessary throughout their buyer journey. If you only target Amazon or Google, you're only reaching those at the bottom of the funnel. Not only are you missing the opportunity at the top and the middle of the funnel, you're losing at the bottom of the funnel as well. Other brands will find ways to reach the consumers that you would like to have throughout the entire funnel. So it's just an approach you should consider taking in terms of integrated.
Okay, another question. Do you like animated video promotions better or worse than regular traditional type video?
That's a great question. Again, it's hard to answer some of these questions that we again see all the time. There's really no cookie cutter response. It really depends on your target audience. If an animated video, if you're selling a product towards a male that's 60+ years old, he's probably not going to respond well to an animated video. He may prefer that traditional form of video. Again, so yeah, really, when asking these questions, really think about your audience. Develop the persona that you want to reach for this customer, and then think about what video would apply most to that persona.
And I think with me, what I tend to want to do is test. So if you, even after you've built your personas and you have them really nailed down, you're still not quite sure which one they would respond to better, you can run a test. So create that ad animated and then create it non-animated and see how people resonate, see which one resonates better with people. And as you do that over time, you'll start to find out you'll start to find out how they are responding to it. And then you'll discover that maybe your audience loves animated videos and that's really what they respond to. And then that's how you can start to make that decision in the future. So it really does depend on your audience.
Okay, what about the length of the video? How long should they last?
That's another hard one to answer too, at least for me. I'll let Justin put in his 2 cents if he has something to add, but It really depends on the goal of the video. If the goal of your video is to really educate your audience and you really want to go in depth about your product, that would probably be a couple minutes long. I don't have an exact number or anything like that, but if the purpose is to just capture someone's attention and generate buzz, something faster might work better. It does depend on your goal, but it also depends on your audience too. So people are, they don't like to spend a lot of time watching videos unless they're actively, searching for information or something like that. So that's a hard one to answer without, knowing the goals that you have for that specific video.
Yeah, I chime in with what Hannah's saying here. The goal of the video is definitely important as the audience and where you're going to show that video. The attention span of someone on a mobile device or on a social platform like Twitter may be less than someone sitting at home watching this video on their Roku or their Apple TV. So along with the audience, think of where they're going to be watching and what channels they're going to be showing your ad on.
Okay, do you like whiteboard type video, or is that depending on your audience again?
That can be an audience one for I guess in relation to the last couple of video ones, but the whiteboards can be effective. They can be very educational. They can also be pretty inexpensive to have developed. So whiteboard videos can be effective. Again, it's the audience and where within the buyer's journey, like Hannah mentioned, like the education. If they're in that part of the funnel, whiteboards can be very effective.
Okay, we have another question. How can you tell your offline ads are working?
So this one can be difficult to measure, but there's a couple of different things you can do to gauge how successful they are. You can use something called a vanity URL on printed material or on printed material to send people to a specific web page on your site. So let's say that Jumpstart had some handouts at CoffeeCon that they were giving to people, and they were sending people to jumpstart.com/save20 to save 20% on their purchase of a cold brew maker. If they only handed that out at CoffeeCon and that was the only place people could find that URL, then they know that all the traffic that went to that website was from that event. So doing stuff like that at events or on magazine ads, if you're running magazine ads, sending them to a specific URL will help you see the traffic that's coming to the website from those people, and then with a proper tracking in place if they're making purchases. If you add hashtags at an event that you're having or on those magazine ads, you can see the volume of people using those hashtags online. That's another way just to kind of gauge how many people are interacting with it. And finally, this isn't open to all advertisers, but Google is starting to launch capabilities to track foot traffic to stores. So as that is being built and being launched, I guess, or given to other advertisers to use, that's something to keep an eye out on as technology improves over time.
Okay, great. We have another question. How can a traditional B2B company without directly competing, how can a traditional B2B company launch a B2C channel without directly competing with its customers?
So that's kind of that kind of piggybacks off the whole integrated approach that we talked about. So it's not a competition between the B2B and the retailers. You want to feed off each other. So I would encourage you to refer back to some of those sites we talked about earlier. Again, just putting a e-commerce shopping cart in place is going to be really ineffective in accomplishing that goal. It's a big process, and I encourage you to just again go back through the slides, listen to the webinar, and really think about what this entails. I'm not saying that you can't find success in it, I also think that, the integrated approach is probably right up your alley in terms of a B2B and B2C channel development. So.
Okay, one more. Do you find slideshows better or worse than video?
I think it depends. I know that's something we've kind of said to a lot of the videos, but like I mentioned before, I would just test. And it also might depend on your capabilities. If you are looking to make a quick video for your social channels or for your websites, and it's easier for you to do it in a slideshow format, and you think that your audience would resonate with it, then maybe that's what you have to start your testing with. But I would definitely just, as we said, consider your audience, and if they would find that attractive, I guess, or that they would engage with that. But definitely test, because there are so many different ways that you can use video. And just with these questions, we've gone through so many of them, and there's even more out there. So it's a hard decision to make, but as you do research on your audience and you do testing and you see how people are engaging with your ads, you'll start to kind of see what's working for your brand.
Yeah, Hannah makes a great point. It's all about your capabilities. If internally you can do a slideshow and the performance outpaces just a traditional image, I mean, that might give you the next steps to devoting some budget to, either internally creating a video or looking outside and having the agency or another partner create a video for you. So yeah, again, I think those capabilities are a key question for you. And then, as Hannah mentioned, test.
Well, okay, I guess that's all the questions. I hope everyone enjoyed our webinar Wednesday. And once again, on behalf of IHA, I'd like to thank Justin and Hannah for doing their presentation and all their great knowledge. For those of you who would like to go back and see this webinar or send it on to whomever, please visit www.housewares.org. Thank you all again, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.